We always hear about when a player gets fined, but never where the fine goes.
Hey, I'm just here so I don't get fined. I'm here so I won't get fined. I'm here so I won't get fined. I'm here so I won't get fined.
So, what happens to the money? For example, Tyreek Hill of the Miami Dolphins, he's been fined almost $100,000 this season alone for various infractions, such as not wearing socks, backflip celebrations, and making a peace sign while scoring a touchdown.
No matter how much they fine you, like the money's gonna come. And I've always been like this. Even when I was in Kansas City, like when I jumped into the crowd and I grabbed the camera and I was turning it around, like I got fined like $50K for that.
But where does that money go? Like, what do they do with it? And does it affect the player who was fined? And if so, how? Let's get into it. First of all, let's talk about why players get fined in the first place. The NFL and the NFL Players Association collectively bargain on an on-field code of conduct for all players. The rules are intended to protect the players from unnecessary risk, promote player safety, and emphasize sportsmanship and respect for teammates, opponents, coaches, officials, and fans.
My fault, Ben! Yeah, it looked like McCoy late was coming up the middle. Hey, my fault, Ben!
The NFL also has a uniform policy that requires players to wear certain equipment and clothing that meets the league standards. So, if a player violates any of these rules, he may be subject to a fine by the league.
What's your thoughts on Kareem Jackson has played in his, they fined him, I think, 4 or 5 weeks in a row now?
Yeah, he's going to get fined $1 billion for this one because of his past history.
The amount of the fine depends on the type and severity of the violation. The NFL has a fine schedule that outlines the minimum and maximum amounts for each infraction. For example,
Personal foul, roughing the passer, defense, number 39.
Yeah, that one's gonna cost you $21,855. Taunting is another.
Unsportsmanlike conduct, taunting, number 76, offense.
The first offense for this one is gonna run you $10,927. Side note, these amounts may increase or decrease depending on the circumstances of each case.
The personal foul on number 99 of the defense. After he tackled the quarterback, he's giving them business down there at the 15-yard penalty.
These fines and others are penalties for violating the league's and the union's code of conduct for players. However, these fines don't go to the NFL. So, if they don't go to the NFL, where does it go?
It upset me at the time. I mean, it was a federal crime, the amount of money that was getting stolen from me. But that's a great question. Where does the money go?
Well, all of the money collected from fines goes to programs for former players and charitable causes. Specifically, 50% of the fine money goes to the Professional Athletes Foundation, or PAF, which supports NFL legends in need through grants and scholarships. The other 50% goes to the NFL Foundation, which supports health, safety, and wellness of athletes across all levels, including youth football and communities to support the game. So, okay, now that these foundations have the money, what do they do with it?
At the end of the day, when the lights go off, it's still important that we help care for them.
The PAF provides financial assistance to former players who are facing hardships such as medical bills, housing costs, education expenses, or other emergencies. They also offer health screenings, mental health counseling, addiction recovery services, and educational programs to former players and their families. They like to provide free online mental health therapy sessions to former players who are struggling with anxiety, depression, or other issues.
I think it's very healing. It's very therapeutic just to know that other players are learning about mental health. Other players are trying to break that stigma. Just know they have a brotherhood of people here in the NFL, NFLPA, and the PAF.
The other charity, the NFL Foundation, provides grants to youth and high school football programs across the country to promote safe and healthy practices, equipment, and facilities. For instance, in 2023, the NFL Foundation awarded more than $3 million in grants to community organizations, schools, and parks in 16 cities and towns across the United States.
The NFL is giving back in our area ahead of the big game.
And today they unveiled a brand new field in Liberty City. And Local 10 News reporter Parker Branton was right there for the big reveal.
So, as you can see, these foundations are doing a lot of good work with the money from fines. They're helping former players who need support and assistance, and they're helping current and future generations of athletes and fans who love the game. Now, that's all well and good, but how is the player who was fined affected? Well, obviously it means less money in their pocket.
Hey, I'm just here so I don't get fined. I'm here so I won't get fined.
Super Bowl Media Day.
I was probably up to about, at that point in time, I was probably up to about 1.2 in fines.
What?
The fine is withheld from his next game check. Depending on his salary and contract situation, this may or may not have a significant impact on his financial status. For example, Tyreek Hill makes $30 million per year, so a $10,927 fine is only 0.04% of his annual income. Not really that much. However, for a player who makes the league minimum, an almost $11,000 fine is a big deal. But money isn't the only thing that matters. A player who gets fined may also face other consequences, such as public criticism, media scrutiny, team discipline, or loss of reputation.
Do you think Burfict should be allowed to ever play in the NFL again?
Well, my initial answer would be yes, I think he should be suspended for the rest of the season. I have no problem with that. But when you talk about the remainder of the man's career, this being the largest on-field fine ever, that's real hard for me to sit up there and say somebody's career should be over because of that.
A player who gets fined repeatedly may also develop a bad image or reputation amongst fans, peers, or officials, and unfortunately, this may affect his performance on the field or his opportunities off. So, what can a player do if he disagrees with a fine? Well, he can appeal it. All players have the right to appeal any fine within 3 business days of receiving notice from the league. The appeal is heard by one of 2 appeals officers. These are usually former players who are jointly appointed and paid by the NFL and NFLPA. They review the play and hear both sides of the argument before making a final decision. The decision is binding and cannot be challenged further. If the fine is reduced or rescinded, the player gets his money back or pays less.
I was part of the appeals process on behalf of Kareem, and I'm obviously glad it was reduced. And it is what it is. We'll be without him for 2 games, and he'll be back.
However, if the fine is upheld, the player has to pay it. And if the player is smart, he'll just use the fine as a tax write-off at the end of the year.
I'm just here so I won't get fined.
So, that's how fines work in the NFL. They're meant to enforce the rules and standards of conduct that both of the league and the unions agreed on. Contrary to popular belief, they're not meant to punish or profit from players. They're meant to support former players and charitable causes. They're also meant to deter players from committing future violations. Lastly, this is just my personal feelings on it. After working so hard to get in the league to change you and your family's financial situation, don't now give the money back, especially when the average NFL career is only 3 years and some change. Get as much out of the league as you possibly can, save as much as you can, and make smart investments so in 20 plus years, your money's working for you and not the other way around. Hey, but what do I know? I'm just another guy with another sports channel on YouTube. #subscribe.
We got about year 7, and I knew I had something coming up for that game. I was mailing my check in to the league office on Wednesday ahead of time before the game. And I know that really pissed him off.